It is imperative that we understand two valuable lessons in life. Number one, why are we here and what were we born to do? We can't understand either of those unless we understand what our true potential really is. And it is my greatest honor to bring on the Chiropractor's Edge someone who is an authority in understanding the human mind, who we really are, and what our potential really can become. I bring to you my dear friend, my colleague and mentor, Dr. Monique Andrews. Welcome to the Chiropractor's Edge.
Oh, thank you so much, Jake. It's a delight to be here with you today. One of my favorite humans on the chiropractic planet.
And what a blessing. You know, you gave an incredible lecture at Lyceum. I mean, you are the go-to when it comes to lecturing, and because you really are the leading authority when it comes to the mind. When it comes to the research on the vagus nerve, polyvagal theory, you know, you have really strived your whole life to achieve what brings you joy. And I'd like for you to maybe share a little bit about that, how that became. I think most of us, almost every one of us know who you are, but we may not know your beginnings. And I know that it's important where a lot of people in our profession, I feel, get those golden handcuffs when it comes to maybe getting into a practice they thought was something different. They thought they could change it, and they ended up just kind of adopting philosophies and ways that they didn't really agree to, and they get stuck in that. I would like to maybe think of if you could, if you were to go back, years ago and talk to Dr. Mo, how have the decisions you've made then allowed you to be the authority you are now?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I think most people know that, well, everybody on your call is going to know I'm a chiropractor. Most people know I'm a neuroscientist. A lot of people don't know that my undergraduate work was actually in psychology and theology.
Wow.
And I've always been obsessed with the human condition, not just from a physiological perspective, but from a consciousness perspective, from a pure psychology, like what makes us tick? Why do we behave and emote in the ways that we do? Of course, I was in practice as a chiropractor for many years. Before that, I did research as a neuroscientist. And I think it's Marianne Williamson who said, you know that you're in the right place when everything that you've done has led you to this very moment. And I think I could literally point out all the dots that have brought me from that young undergraduate psychology student to the chiropractor / neuroscientist who's obsessed with the vagus nerve and polyvagal theory today. It's not a big leap, really.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
So I see you teach with such passion. And one of the things I love is that my wife has fallen in love with you 10 times over. And so many people in our profession and it's how you are able to take something that is the most complex system on planet Earth in our universe is the human nervous system. How are you able to take something like that and not only put it, so obviously because you understand it very, very well because you are constantly pursuing it. But how did you get to the point where you knew that in order to change the world, you had to make this applicable to the world? Did that just come naturally to you? Or is that something that you had to, is that a technique that you had to cultivate in order to do that? How did you achieve that?
Somebody asked me that once before. They said, you're an extremely gifted teacher. Is that learned or is it a gift?
Yeah.
And, honestly, I wish I could say it was learned, but I think this is just always the way I've instructed. And, I think Einstein puts it perfectly. He says, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it.
Wow.
And I do think that, the depth of my understanding really does help me simplify it. And, but I do think you can learn to do that. I think that, I always imagine that I'm explaining everything to a 12-year-old. Not that I don't think, our community is smart enough to understand it in all of its complexity. I think people feel safe when you make it like really easily accessible.
Yes.
And, I guess that's been my personal mission.
I think you and I would both agree. I know we've talked about this in the past is a lot of the philosophy, a lot of the higher sciences and knowledge are for us to understand. but we have to make it applicable to the world. And you see so many professors and so many people who just speak so above where someone's at, where literally everyone in the room is like, am I the only one not understanding what's happening here? And we have to understand that on our side of the line. We are the doctors, right? You're the doctor. Was there a time where you realized that in order to really change the world, in order to change chiropractic and to elevate it, was there a time where you realized that you had to play bigger, where you had to actually become the leading authority on the stage? Is that something that's always been there? Or did you say, I have to get this out there and here's my platform? How did you discover that platform?
Like everybody else, I was sitting in, my butt was in the seat in the audience for many years. And I found exactly what you said, where people would be talking over our heads. Only what I really came to understand is sometimes people are more interested in you thinking that they're really smart than they are interested in you understanding something.
Truth.
And I'm just always for the underdog. I'm like, everybody can understand this. Everybody can understand this. And I made it my personal mission to get the true story behind the science of chiropractic from a philosophical perspective, and to make it available to everyone so that any doc can go in their office the next day after hearing me and be fired up, and not just excited, but actually be able to share enough of that message to turn the next person in line on.
You hit something so true. A lot of times what may seem like common understanding to us is absolutely not common understanding to other people, especially when you're in a room of the top 1% of all the chiropractors and the doctors in the world. And to even see most people jotting down, with fire, what you're saying, to say, okay, so I'm not the only one who clearly didn't have a perfect understanding of this. Or I understood it this way, but here's how I can make it applicable. And I'm thinking of the thousands of patients where I can now make this applicable on Monday morning. I love that about you, that you're for the underdog. You're for all of us, and you're elevating us in that way. So you are pioneering some pretty incredible thought. That's not only helped me personally, but it's changing the lives, how people think about the nerve, or about the vagus nerve. I had a patient literally yesterday say her son's legally blind. He's severely autistic. And she says, can I ask you a question? Does everyone in the world know about chiropractic and autism? She's like, because this is the first time I've ever seen this. He couldn't sleep, period. He hadn't slept in like 90 days. She goes, he slept for 7 days straight. She goes, does anyone know, like, what you shared with me? Do people know that? Like that was so invigorating. And I've learned that from you. I learned that from you, to change that little boy's life. And this is how we can make it applicable. What do you say, Dr. Mo, to the chiropractor who says, I'm not Dr. Mo though. I don't have her PhD. I don't have all the understanding. I don't have her research. I haven't held tens of thousands of human brains in my hand. What do you say to the person that says that they're not enough, they don't have enough? What do you say to them?
Yeah, I think you just have to dive in. You just, like I say, all you need is 5 research papers to argue your point. The average medical doctor or naysayer most people don't read research, or maybe they have 1 or 2 articles. Find a few that you're excited about. You don't have to be me. I'm not you. That's your power. You don't need a PhD to be able to take our message and start to share it, and just say, look, I don't know everything, but I do know that when you adjust the spine, you change the brain, and the science tells us that. It's that simple. It's that simple.
I say that phrase every single day in my career, every single day. And when I play, I say that when you touch the spine, you change the brain. You change the brain when you touch the spine. Yep. I love that. So speaking of research, we have to, we have a moral and an ethical obligation to be the best that we can be. We have to be in the know. Mo knows, right? Where should we be guiding ourselves this day? I remember 20 years ago, 15 years ago in school, we were taught certain, here's where you get our education from or our research from. And you and I were talking before the pregame show that it's very easy to find something that supports your opinion anywhere. Where should we be getting our research from today?
Yeah, well, obviously, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I post research every week. Also, I think it's really important to support and go to the research foundations that are sharing our principled message. So organizations like the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation Research, the Australian Spinal Research Foundation. Those are two organizations that I personally put money and time and energy into supporting, and I welcome that people do that. The only way our message is going to expand is if we have money going into research. You got to put your money where your mouth is. And I couldn't, in all sincerity and integrity, get up and all the time be talking about the research and not be putting my own personal money into supporting it. So I would say there is a deluge of information. If you go to the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation Research, for example, and sign up to their subscription service that gives you subscriptions to all of their research magazines, look, you don't have enough time in the day to read all the research that's there. And it's so principled, and it's not that complex. They even have articles, they even have classes on how to write a case study, how to read a research paper. You set aside some time. It has to be a conscious choice. It is my duty, like you said, it's my ethical and moral responsibility to learn more about that leg of the triune, the science of what it is, because we've such an educated population today. We have the internet. People are on there searching things, reading. Sometimes people come in and you're like, wow, it feels like they know more than I do. And, there's no excuse now for not diving in because it's so accessible. And for literally pennies a day, you could be supporting, an organization like Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation Research and gain access to their subscriptions.
I couldn't agree more. You brought up two amazing concepts. Number one, we have, how do we follow up? We have to be first. So many people say, "Oh, there's enough other people that can support." What I have truly found is when someone, for example, let's bring this all back to sales. If you're trying to sell somebody anything in life, what I find is if the people who do not support, the people who do not back what they believe with their money, they're not going to get that in return. Someone's going to their fear is going to be projected in their sales process. I mean, everything we do in life is a sale. But if you are not morally and ethically backing the people who are fighting and are providing this research, it is going to come back to you in one way or the other, either ethically, morally, psychologically, physically, monetarily, it will come back. So that's a principle that is very true. You have to give. And we personally, I give back to those two foundations as well. I sit, on a board, on the IFCO board, where we constantly are talking about those from a moral and ethical standpoint. So I love that. Let's talk about something that you make a real difference in. So not only in our practice members' lives, but you and your sweet wife Tamara, you guys focus on healing the healer. You guys focus on how to heal the chiropractor, heal the doctor, heal the entrepreneur, heal the business owner. And I would love to talk about the PRANA Foundation. I'd love to talk about what you teach us with polyvagal and the vagus nerve and how we can truly heal ourselves, because we can only run so fast. And we can get burned out physically, maybe not emotionally, but physically. How do you heal the healer? How do we heal ourselves?
Yeah, something that we say in the PRANA Foundation all the time is who you are as a person precedes who you are as a chiropractor. And I think if this vessel, if this channel of light is not whole, then how can you shine that light brightly on anybody else? Wow. That everybody's familiar with the idea you got to put your own oxygen mask on first. And so really our mission was to provide a community, a safe space for chiropractors and chiropractic students to learn to become whole and to, help them heal from, we all are carrying around wounds from our past and struggles in practice. Not everybody has $1 million practice. Not everybody wants $1 million practice. But how do we make it through this journey being ourselves as whole as possible? Because I think only then can we truly give to our most, highest potential to those that we are serving. And so, our mission really is to provide that safe space for chiropractors to step into their gifts, a place for them to heal, to become whole, so that they can shine their brightest. And honestly, that gives me the most joy, is to see people's trajectory change. I think we're a very conscious profession. We're an incredibly aware profession.
but we may not always practice what we preach. It's always alarming or saddening to hear that we have a doc who's a boots on the ground doctor in the outskirts of Nova Scotia or Idaho or Colorado or Georgia, and they're by themselves and they're never getting their spine checked. They preach it, they check everyone else, but they're not doing it for themselves. How do you actually come to the awareness that, because most people find, just like with some of our patients, practice members, when there's a crisis, they see the problem. How does the chiropractor identify that there's a need when they may not be seeing the symptom of burnout or of just they're not self-aware? How do we not get to that crisis?
That's a hard question. I mean, how does somebody become conscious if they're not self-aware? And I think that's why we need to belong to strong communities. And if you know a brother or sister out there who, is alone and struggling, or not even if you're sure they're not sure they're struggling, I think we have to be in community. Porges, the polyvagal guru, says connection is a biological imperative. That's not just for babies. I think that's for all of us. We need to be connected to one another. And that comes from sometimes reaching out to those who may not know that they have isolated themselves. But, I don't know anybody that doesn't want to be in community with their peers. And so sometimes that's going to not be the doc that's isolated who isn't self-aware, but it might be you who reaches out to them to say, hey, looks like things look pretty lonely over there. How can I support you? Let's get together. Even if it's, once a month, or, hey, I belong to this great group. Why don't you join? Something like that.
That we can never understand the power of that connection. You see this every single time we go to an event, Mile High or Lyceum or something from the Black Diamond Club or BE or DE, like, New Beginnings. We see this constantly where the richness being fed and fulfilled is outside the lectures, outside those talks. A lot of times that human connection. We can never underestimate the power of being our best self. We have to be our best self first. And who you are, I love what you said, as a person is who you will be as a chiropractor, and you have to take care of yourself. Share with us, with the many things that you've learned about how to heal and how to get into that, that true energetic, parasympathetic, best mode state. What are some of the things we should be doing on a day-to-day, physically and emotionally as chiropractors to be our best self?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe that everybody should have some sort of daily embodied practice where there's a little bit of breath work, a little bit of meditation that you use as a grounding principle to kind of just bring you back to source and to self. Right now, that can be prayer, that can be meditation, it can be, again, like I said, some sort of embodied practice. For me, what that looks like is a practice every day that I do that has like 5 components to it. That includes meditation, breath work, bringing up my parasympathetics, bringing down my sympathetics, and then really focusing on my intention. And in fact, I was part of an outside chiropractic community just this past year asked me to come and talk about chronic pain, and I taught them this 5-step process. And they asked me can you make a course for this so that people can gain access and learn how to do it? And I did. It's called Nervous System Balm, BALM, not BAOMB, Nervous System Balm. And if anybody's interested, you can go and grab that, and that literally takes you through my daily 5-step. This is how to calm your nervous system and how to ground yourself so that you can be filled and fueled to shine your light the brightest.
That's so critical. A lot of times I hear a phrase too common in our profession, hey, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Hey, I'm just starting. There's going to be no sleep. Hey, I'm at this super level of success. We just hit 1 million. Hey, I'm at the super level of success. We just hit 5 million. Hey, we just hit 1,000 a week. And it's that constant, they're always growing. So they're always putting themselves off, and they get to the point where they are truly going to burn out. And those are critical to be able to take those steps. So nervous system balm.
Yep.
Is okay. This is critical, and I know you've alluded to this over the last several years, and in what you not alluded, you've taught this. I do one of the techniques that you and Tamara have talked about when I lay on the ground and my breathing, even putting my finger in my ear. I do that. I do these little things. People are like, putting your finger in your ear. If you know what that means, you have to watch Mo. It's how to basically bring balance. When one is out of sync, it's how to bring that balance. So, healing ourselves is so critical, and I love that you're a huge proponent for that. What are some of the incredible things? And you're privy to a lot of information before, and you're discovering truths and solidifying truths and seeing new things only because you're on the forefront of that, because that's what you're searching for. What are some of the exciting things that are lighting you up these days that you're really excited to share and teach about?
Yeah, so, I think there's this big contentious argument in our profession that chiropractic doesn't impact the immune system. Now, all of the science tells us it does impact the immune system. And oh, by the way, here is the science, and here's how the vagus nerve directly communicates the brain to the gut-associated lymphoid immune tissue in the digestive system. Here it is right here. Why are we saying there's no impact? And, there are political forces at play that, there's an agenda. And this exists at all levels of government, all levels of politics. There's always going to be agendas pushing against something. And so for me, I love that I can get in front of a group, a class, students, docs, I don't care who it is. I'll scream from the rooftops, here's the science. And this is why I love to make it simple, because it's irrefutable. It's irrefutable. And it's baffling to me how, some organizations can be like, oh, we can't say there's a connection. There's no connection. I'm like, well, you're missing what are you not reading? Because here it is right here. I think that's the most exciting thing. And the more doctors we get turned on to that, the better. Now, it's important that you don't make, causative statements from correlative data. What does that mean? You shouldn't say chiropractic boosts immunity. Number one, well, we don't want to say that, right, because only the body controls the physiology at that level. But can we help modulate? Can we help the body perform better? Yeah, that's our job as chiropractors, right? And so just putting those crumbs close enough together that anybody can grasp and see it, and showing the pictures and showing the science. Look, there's this study and this study and this study. It's there. I just got invited to speak in Germany in September, and I'm so excited because in Europe, that's the seat of the mechanistic chiropractor that's really kind of pushing against the principled message. And so, to be invited into the lair, that's exciting to me. And I cannot wait to get out there and turn on those really excited principled chiropractors in Germany.
Yeah, I love that. It's irrefutable. And there are going to be people from an emotional side. We could talk about COVID. We could talk about so many things. And when people are speaking from an emotional standpoint, that's where it takes the ability to be aware that, I'm not going to be able to change your mind. Because what's my outcome here? Do I want to bless your life? Or am I going to try to fight against you? You've got a wall up, I've got a wall up. But when you're in an environment where it's welcomed, when you're in an environment where caring first is known and understood, I know that when you speak from a place of love. I know you speak from a place of compassion. And then that, given what your gifts are with your research and your just pig-headed discipline of nose to the grindstone, constantly reading, proving, unproving these truths that we've learned over the years, that's what then creates certainty. When passion and certainty come to place, your velocity for propelling forward is unstoppable. And people just want to join you. And whoa, how can I follow her? Well, she's already eons ahead of us now. Here's how you do it. I love that you make that so accessible. It's a simple principle that we often forget.
Yeah, and I think you're right when you say passion and certainty, because when we're certain, then it's easy to not be emotionally charged by somebody's opposition. Because your emotionality around something, or even your belief system, your values actually don't have anything to do with mine. And people can be just as passionate about saying what the opposite to what I have to say without compromising my certainty. And the way that we get to the level where my certainty, where your certainty becomes uncompromisable, is you have to put the time and the hours into studying, right? Read more, think more, listen, have the conversation, show up at those events like Mile High and New Beginnings and Sherman Lyceum, where that's what's being shared with a level of certainty that is uncompromisable. And I think then that's a life-changing perspective, right? To not get dragged into somebody else's emotional, I'm going to fight with you. It's like, well, I don't need to fight because I know this is true. It's not a belief, it's the truth.
And that stands for itself. It always does. I mean, we don't, what's the old saying? You don't need to convince, why are you trying to convince flies that what they're hovering around is better than honey? No, they love what they love. Let them love it.
Yes.
There's also respect. I have found the more adoration, the more respect, admiration that I have are people who didn't get ugly. You tend to see that. Why is it that we can't have a difficult conversation about something that we're trying to understand? Why does that have to always become about your mama? Why does it always have to come about your looks or your sexual orientation or your political or religious? Like, why can't we just talk fact? Like,
well, you know why?
Yeah.
Because people have poor neuroregulation. Their nervous systems are not regulated well. And when you can't control your response, that is a sign of nervous system dysregulation. Number one, get checked by a chiropractor. Number two, have a daily practice where you are learning to regulate your nervous system. And that's what I love to promote. It's like, make sure you're getting your spine checked and corrected of subluxation that's interfering with your innate intelligence's ability to allow you to thrive. And oh, by the way, you also have some responsibility to regulate your own nervous system. You are given this gift, right? At conception, we get this gift. And it is now your responsibility to learn to make sure that it's functioning at its best. That's more than 15 minutes in your chiropractor's office once a week. Wow. You're responsible for the other 195 hours and 45 minutes a week. And,
right.
That needs to start with taking responsibility for your own expression in the world and the impact that we have on others.
Thank you. As you've shared that, I know we have a lot of docs in this group who have incredibly successful practices, and regardless of where they are, and they have multiple businesses, multiple practices, and their influence is great. And we do have a lot of docs in this group who want to be able to share that on the platforms you are. What would you recommend? Number one, you have to be first. You have to research. You have to put in the sweat equity. You have to put in that time to be the authority and learn it so that you can explain it so simply, so that a kid in the room would say, "Oh, that makes sense. I get that." How does a chiropractor get to where you are if that's where they want to go? They want to speak on platforms. They want to be on TV. They want to be able to use our knowledge to transform the world to what we understand. How do you start there? How do you get to where you are now?
Yeah, I would say find something that sets your heart on fire, that you're excited about. For me, that's, Vegas, chiropractic neuroscience. So find something that sets your heart on fire, and then find some great mentors and study with them. How do they do it? Pick their brain, reach out to them, take their courses, if we want to be healthy, we study healthy people, not sick people. It's just like that too. If there's people that you emulate or want to emulate, then go learn with them. It's just like that.
Thank you. I see commonly that, as we've started a couple of podcasts, a few other businesses, we're constantly bombarded by, hey, put me on your show, put me on your show, put me on your show. I'm like, who are you? And that doesn't mean that just because Jake Hansen hasn't heard about you doesn't mean you're a big wig. But I love what you just taught, because this is how you live. Buy the material, buy the courses, go to the events, fly out and be there, be present and support. And when you have something that lights you up like a fire, we're going to hear that lion's roar. And the next thing is we need everyone to hear what this person is saying. That's, you guys, that is as simple as it gets. When you are passionate, it's going to happen organically. You could pay, you can have a PR firm to do it, but it's not natural. You're not going to get a crowd that wants to be there. You're not going to get people that say, "Oh, well, I wasn't going to this event, but Mo's there. Oh yeah, we're bringing the whole team." That's where that passion comes from, and it's true fiery passion. Thank you for teaching us how to regulate. We need to regulate ourselves for those 5 principles on doing that. That we need to heal the healer, and how we do that. that we need to donate and give to those who support our profession so that we can in return be able to deliver our products and services better. And we're not playing that duality of fates and that duality of personality. And thank you for your passion for our profession. Thank you for being the leader on this front and showing us how it's literally done and how you can be your best self by being the best person you can be, so you can be the best chiropractor you can be. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you, Jake.
All right. We love and appreciate you guys. For those who want to know about Mo, follow Dr. Mo Knows. Mo, wherever you guys consume social media, Dr. Monique Andrews, you're going to find her everywhere. Look at the PRANA Foundation. And then the nervous system balm.
Nervous system balm, if you're interested in the daily practice that I do. And if you want to dive deeper into the science, in my class, which is Dr. Mo Knows, drmoknows.com, and we meet once a month and really dive down into this kind of material. And it's awesome. It's a live interactive class. And and I'm here. Reach out anytime with questions.
This is how we achieve what we talked about, you guys. The most important things, being born and understanding why. When you understand your nature, your potential, it is unlimited what you can do for this world, but you have to transform yourself first. You have to be the caterpillar that turns into the cocoon, that turns into the butterfly. This is how you become by doing these things. Thank you for teaching us how to become, Mo. We love you.
Thank you so much.